The galaxy was full of rumors. Some were about lost fleets, some about hidden treasures, but one rumor was different. One name always returned in hushed voices: Earth. The aliens never said it loudly. They whispered it, as if speaking the word might bring danger closer. To most, it was not a world. It was a warning. A place the galaxy itself called Deathworld. Inside a large orbital station, far from any sun, young Officer Corral sat with his mentor. The canteen was full of chatter, yet every sound stopped when an old merchant mentioned the word Earth. Cups froze in hands. Conversations died mid-sentence. Corral's eyes narrowed. He was young, curious, not yet shaped by fear. "Why is Earth feared?" he asked softly. The older alien, scales pale with age, lowered his gaze. His voice trembled. "Do not ask that. It is not our concern. It is not safe to know." But that only lit a fire inside Corral. If all feared it, then the truth must be powerful. He waited, watched, and finally discovered the entrance to a forgotten archive. The doors were sealed by layers of dust. Symbols of warning glowed faintly on the walls: restricted, forbidden, dangerous. Corral hesitated, but only for a moment. His claws pressed the control panel. The lock opened with a sharp hiss. Cold air escaped, like the breath of something ancient. Inside, rows of black data crystals lined the shelves. Each one carried marks of age, but one stood out. A simple cube, its label burned away, yet a faint human word scratched into its surface: Earth. Corral picked it up, and with a careful touch, connected it to the playback console. For a long second, nothing happened. Then a sound filled the chamber. Not music. Not machine. A heartbeat. Corral froze. It was slow, steady, alive. Then, a voice followed, deep, human, old. "We endure." The words were simple, but they hit like a blade. Corral felt the air grow heavy. The voice was not shouting, not violent, yet it carried weight, strength, something unbroken. He leaned closer as more voices followed. Some male, some female, some young, some ancient. Each voice carried a story. "We walked through fire. We crossed deserts. We hunted beasts that hunted us. We did not stop. We never stop." Every phrase painted a picture, not of weakness, but of survival. Corral's chest tightened. Earth was not feared because it was empty or cursed. It was feared because its children had grown strong in ways no other species dared imagine. The recordings shifted. Now came the sound of wind, howling, wild, as if the planet itself screamed. A human voice spoke over the storm. "This is home." Corral's claws shook slightly. Home. For any other species, such storms would mean death. Yet for humans it was comfort. The next recording played. The crackle of fire. The growl of unseen predators. Then a woman's voice, calm, steady. "We learned to fight before we could walk." Corral's scales prickled. His mind raced. He thought of his own people, how they avoided harsh worlds, how they fled from storms and beasts. Yet humans did not flee. They stayed. They adapted. As more recordings filled the room, Corral realized Earth itself was a test. A world that should have broken its children, yet instead forged them into something dangerous. One voice, tired but unbroken, whispered into the crystal. "Earth does not forgive the weak. It shapes the strong." Corral shut his eyes for a moment, letting the words sink deep. He felt as if he had opened a door that should have stayed closed. But at the same time, he could not look away. The young officer had expected stories of weapons, of technology, of empires. But no. The true power of Earth was something else. Survival. Pain. Endurance. He played one last file. A recording of laughter. Not cruel, not mocking, just pure, human laughter. The sound echoed strangely in the cold archive. Corral frowned. Why laughter? Why place joy inside a record of terror? Then the message became clear. Humans did not only survive suffering. They could laugh in the middle of it. Chiral leaned back, his eyes wide. Now he understood why even hardened warlords lowered their voices at the mention of Earth. The galaxy did not fear the storms, the deserts, or the predators. The galaxy feared the species that called such horrors ordinary life. He whispered to himself, barely audible in the dark chamber. If this is only their beginning, what are they now? The heartbeat from the crystal still echoed, slow and steady. Chiral reached to shut it off, but his claws hesitated. A strange thought crept into his mind. This was not just knowledge. It was a warning. And yet, he wanted more. The archive was vast, and this was only the first recording. Somewhere inside were more voices, more truths, more shadows of Earth's past. Chiral's mentor had told him not to ask questions. But now it was too late. The questions had already found him. He placed the cube back on the console, eyes sharp with new hunger. He would return. He would uncover everything. The whisper of Deathworld was only the beginning. Chiral could not sleep. The sound of the heartbeat still echoed in his mind. We endure. Those two words haunted him. They carried no threat, no weapon, yet they shook his very bones. What kind of species turned pain into power? When the station grew quiet, when most were asleep, Chiral returned to the archive. Dust still covered the shelves. Warning symbols glowed faintly. His claws trembled, but curiosity was stronger than fear. He touched the console again. The crystal flared. The heartbeat returned. Silence. Then another voice. It was human, male, calm but heavy with scars. I crossed the ice with nothing but fire in my hands. The night tried to freeze me. The wind tried to break me. But I walked on. Because to stop was death. Chiral felt cold, even though the room's temperature had not changed. He imagined an endless frozen wasteland, storms that would kill any creature in moments. Yet the human voice carried no despair. Only certainty. Another voice followed, female this time, sharp as steel. I fought beasts taller than trees. Their claws tore my flesh. Their teeth crushed bone. But I stood again. Because if I did not, my people would fall. The officer's eyes widened. He pictured the monsters. He pictured the humans standing against them, broken but unyielding. His people would have fled such a world. Humans stayed and fought. Then came a child's voice. Fragile, yet clear. The river took my family. But I learned to swim. The river is not my enemy. It is my teacher. Chiral almost turned off the console. The words were too much. Too heavy. Too alien. The galaxy taught fear. The humans taught defiance. The recordings shifted. Now there were sounds, storms roaring, waves crashing, fire crackling. Human voices spoke over them. Mountains tried to stop us. We climbed. Oceans tried to drown us. We sailed. The desert burned us. We built shelters and returned. Chiral's claws tapped the console nervously. Each story was not about conquest of others. It was conquest of nature itself. Of survival where survival was impossible. And yet, between these grim tales, there was something stranger. Laughter. Songs. Humans singing in the middle of chaos. A melody rising even as storms screamed around them. Chiral felt unease crawl through him. Survival was one thing. But joy inside suffering? That was something else. Something the galaxy had never known. The final recording on this crystal began with silence. Then a steady voice spoke, strong but calm. We are not the strongest. We are not the fastest. We are not the smartest. But we endure longer than any enemy, any storm, any war. Because we must. Because we can. The words echoed in Chiral's head like thunder. His scales prickled as he realized what these recordings truly were. Not just stories. Not just history. They were warnings. The humans wanted the galaxy to know. Nothing could outlast them. Corral leaned back, breathing hard. His heart pounded in his chest. He now understood why alien warlords refused to speak the name Earth. To fight humans was not to face an army. It was to face survival itself, sharpened across ages of pain. But he could not stop. He needed to know more. He searched the shelves again. Another crystal gleamed faintly, like it was waiting for him. He picked it up, placed it on the console, and pressed his claw to activate. This time, the room filled not with survival stories, but with voices of war. The clash of metal. The roar of battle. Explosions. Screams. And still, calm voices in the middle of it all. A soldier's voice, steady, unbroken. We fight not because we love war. We fight because we love life. Another followed, heavy with fire. We are not afraid of death. We are afraid of giving up. Corral's claws dug into the console. His breath grew sharp. These humans were not fearless. They knew fear, but they kept moving anyway. That was worse. That was far more dangerous. He turned off the recording, but the silence after felt even heavier. The words stayed inside his head, burning. If the galaxy learned the full truth of Earth, panic would spread. Empires would collapse. Armies would tremble. Corral understood why these records were locked away, hidden in shadows. Yet his own fear had transformed into something else. A strange fascination. A terrible respect. He whispered softly to himself. The galaxy does not fear Earth's storms. It fears Earth's children. The young officer sat alone in the dark archive, the crystals surrounding him like silent watchers. He had only touched the surface of the recordings, and already his world had changed. What more was hidden in this place? What other truths waited in the voices of humans? Corral's claws hovered over the next crystal. His heart pounded. He was afraid, but he pressed the switch anyway. The deathworld still had more to whisper. The recordings were no longer just stories to Corral. They were weights pressing on his chest, filling his mind with images of storms, beasts, wars, and laughter in the middle of suffering. He should have stopped. He knew it. But curiosity burned hotter than fear. One more crystal. Just one more. The cube was marked differently, sealed with triple warnings, lines of alien script carved into its edges, restricted to High Council only. Corral hesitated. His claws trembled above the switch. But then he thought of the voices he had already heard. If those were only surface stories, then what was locked behind the highest walls? He pressed the switch. The console flickered. The room filled with silence, heavier than before. Then, slowly, the sound of thousands of alien voices whispering together. No words, just fear. Then, one human voice cut through the noise. It was a general's voice. Calm, sharp, unshaken. You ask why Earth is feared. Listen, and you will understand. The recording shifted. Now came the sound of marching feet. Hundreds, maybe thousands, walking in rhythm. Metal clashing. The low hum of war machines. Then the general spoke again. Others fight wars to conquer. We fight wars to survive. And survival has shaped us into something you cannot break. Corral's claws dug into the console. His breath came faster. This was no longer just survival against nature. This was survival against each other. Against themselves. The voices changed again. Different humans spoke, leaders, soldiers, civilians. Each one carried the same fire. Empires fall. We remain. Stars die. We endure. Even in ashes, we rise again. Corral's mind spun. The galaxy's greatest powers depended on stability, control, fear. But humans, they thrived in chaos. They did not fear destruction. They built again, stronger than before. The recording shifted once more. Now came the sound of something strange. Music. Not soft, not gentle. Loud, powerful, full of energy. Voices singing together as if the end of the world was a festival. Kiral's scales prickled. He could almost see it, humans marching into battle, singing, laughing, unbroken. Then a chilling statement followed, spoken by a voice calm as stone. Do not fear our weapons. Fear our will. Because when the last blade is broken, and the last wall falls, we will fight with our hands, with our teeth, with our very breath. And we will win. The young officer's heart pounded. He understood now why the galaxy avoided Earth. It was not simply the planet's storms or predators. It was the spirit of its people. A spirit that could not be crushed. He leaned closer to the console, desperate, even as fear crawled through him. The recording ended with silence. Then a voice whispered, softer than the rest. Do not mistake us. We do not seek war. But if war comes to us, the galaxy will remember Earth. The console shut down. The cube went dark. Kiral sat frozen. His claws trembled against the cold surface. Sweat clung to his skin. Now he saw it clearly. The galaxy's empires had survived by avoiding Earth. Not because humans were the most powerful, but because they were the most unyielding. They did not stop. They did not break. They did not surrender. And that made them more dangerous than any fleet or weapon. The young officer could not keep this secret to himself. He rushed from the archive, clutching the crystal. His mentor found him in the corridor, eyes wide with panic. What have you done? The elder hissed, fear in every word. Kiral's voice shook. I heard them. I know why Earth is feared. The elder grabbed his arm, claws digging into his scales. Fool! You should have left it buried. Knowledge like that spreads like fire. And once fire begins, it cannot be stopped. But Kiral's mind was already racing. He thought of the great empires, their armies, their fragile peace. He thought of how they whispered Earth's name in fear but never spoke the truth aloud. Now he understood why. If the truth spread, if the galaxy learned not just of Earth's dangers but of humanity's will, chaos would follow. Armies would question their courage. Leaders would lose control. Fear would consume them. And maybe, just maybe, humans would rise again, this time not only as survivors of one death world, but as rulers of the stars. Kiral's voice dropped to a whisper. This is why the galaxy fears Earth. Not because of its storms. Not because of its monsters. But because humans turned suffering into strength. Pain into power. Death into survival. His mentor closed his eyes, face heavy with sorrow. And now, young one, you carry a burden that may destroy you. Or worse, it may awaken them. The corridor fell silent. Both of them knew what was at stake. Both of them felt the same truth. The more they listened to those human voices, the closer the galaxy came to remembering what it tried so hard to forget. The secret of Earth was no longer safe. And Kiral had already chosen. The secret was out. Kiral sat in a chamber of stone and steel. The High Council gathered before him. Dozens of alien leaders stared down with cold, suspicious eyes. His mentor stood behind him, silent, waiting for judgment. The crystal lay on the table. The one marked for High Council only. The eldest counselor leaned forward, voice low and sharp. You touched what was forbidden. Kiral's claws clenched. His throat was dry, but he forced himself to speak. I heard them. I know the truth of Earth. The chamber filled with whispers, every species muttering the word Earth like a curse. The eldest slammed his staff against the floor. Silence returned. Play it. Kiral hesitated. His mentor shook his head, eyes begging him to stay silent. But Kiral pressed the switch anyway. The console lit up. The heartbeat returned. Slow, steady, unbroken. Then came the voice of a human soldier, calm in the middle of chaos. We are not afraid of death. We are afraid of giving up. The counselors shifted in their seats. Some twitched in fear. Some looked pale. None spoke. The recording continued. The sound of battle, explosions, screams, thunder. But in the middle of it, a soldier's voice rose above the noise. If you kill one of us, 10 will rise. If you burn our homes, we will build again. If you break our bodies, our spirit will remain. We do not vanish. We do not end. The words hung in the chamber like fire. Another voice followed. This one softer, but even more terrifying in its calmness. We are children of storms, of fire, of hunger. The galaxy gave us death. We gave it survival. The counselors sat frozen. Their scales, feathers, and fur all shivered in silence. The final message began. A soldier, voice worn yet unshaken, spoke as if to every species beyond the stars. You fear Earth. You are right to fear it. But remember this, Earth does not send us to conquer. Earth does not command us to destroy. We fight only when forced. But if you make that mistake, if you bring war to us, then know this, the galaxy itself will tremble, because Earth does not lose. The chamber fell silent. The recording ended. But the fear remained. Corral looked at the counselors. Their faces showed the same truth, terror. Not of weapons. Not of armies. But of endurance. Of a will stronger than empires. At last, one counselor whispered, almost broken. This is why Earth is locked away. Not because it is weak. Because it is unstoppable. Another slammed his hand against the table. We must bury this again. If others learn, panic will spread across the stars. Armies will crumble before they fight. The galaxy will fall to chaos. The chamber filled with shouting. Some demanded silence, some demanded action, some whispered of destruction. But one thing was clear, no one wanted the truth of Earth to escape. Corral's mentor leaned close, voice sharp with warning. Do you see now? You should never have listened. But Corral shook his head. His eyes burned with something new. Not fear, not regret, but awe. No. I see now why Earth is feared. And why it should not be hidden. The galaxy should remember. Because if humanity still lives, they may rise again. And if they do, no one will stop them. The counselors glared, some with fury, some with dread. One finally spoke. Then you are a danger, young officer. You carry their fire. Fire spreads. Guards stepped forward. Corral felt claws on his arms. But he did not resist. His eyes stayed locked on the silent crystal. As he was dragged from the chamber, the soldier's final words echoed in his head. Earth does not lose. In the corridors outside, Corral's mentor walked beside him, sorrow in his eyes. They will silence you. They will lock away the truth again. This is how it has always been. But Corral's voice was steady. No. The truth is already loose. I heard it. You heard it. The council heard it. It will spread. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But one day, the galaxy will remember. The mentor shook his head in despair. And when that day comes, what then? Corral's eyes shone with a strange fire. Then the galaxy must choose, fear Earth or stand with Earth. There is no other path. Far away, deep in the stars, the silent planet still spun. Earth, the death world. A place of storms, fire, predators, and endless struggle. A place that had shaped its children into survivors the galaxy could not understand. The galaxy feared Earth because it did not break its people. It forged them. And somewhere, out in the dark, the children of Earth were still alive. Still enduring. Still waiting. The whisper of Deathworld had become a voice. And soon, that voice would be heard by all.